In Living Color wasn't just a comedy show. It was sharp, clever social satire. But 35 years later, the truth will shock you. Some have completely changed their faces through plastic surgery. Some were disfigured by accidents, and some have even passed away without anyone realizing. Let's uncover who they really are and the legacies they left behind. Damon Wayans as Homie D. Clown. Damon Wayans was born on September 4, 1960, in New York City. At 30 years old, he played Homie D. Clown, a bitter, sharp-tongued ex-con turned clown, in Living Color, 1990. He quickly became one of the show's most recognizable faces. By 1992, however, creative conflicts pushed him to walk away. His marriage to Lisa Thorner collapsed after 16 years, and the custody disputes that followed drained him emotionally and financially, leaving behind years of resentment and loneliness. That turmoil seeped into his career, even as films like Major Payne, 1995, and the sitcom My Wife and Kids kept his name alive. He often admitted that performing with a broken heart felt like laughing with a weight around the neck. The pressure of fatherhood, divorce, and fame left him burned out, exhausted, and stretched thin in ways his on-screen humor could never hide. By the 2000s, the emotional strain had begun carving into his health. Type 2 diabetes forced him into strict diets, hospital treatments, and a lifestyle he once thought belonged to someone far older. He buried the stress under work, producing shows, starring in Lethal Weapon, and chasing creative redemption. Today, Damon Wayans is 65 years old, still working alongside his son in Papa's house, still searching for purpose after decades of emotional collisions. His net worth, roughly $35 million, stands as the quiet proof of a brave man. Jim Carrey as Fire Marshal. Bill Jim Carrey was born on January 17, 1962, in Newmarket, Ontario. At 28 years old, he played Fire Marshal Bill, a deranged, half-mangled safety instructor, in Living Color, 1990. He became one of the show's most explosive and unpredictable stars. Behind the laughter, his private life descended into heartbreak after heartbreak. 2 divorces left him shaken, but the real tragedy came with Catriona White, whose suicide in 2015 triggered lawsuits, public accusations, and a wave of guilt that nearly destroyed him. Even the heights of The Mask and Dumb and Dumber couldn't shield him from the emotional freefall that followed. As fame grew, so did the pressure, the expectation to stay funny, stay brilliant, until the weight of it all pushed him into long spells of depression he fought with medication, meditation, and silence. The pain took its toll. Years of internal battle left him spiritually exhausted, leading him to step away from Hollywood in 2022 to protect what little peace was left. The same man who once commanded $20 million a film now spoke openly about burnout, mortality, and the high cost of being Jim Carrey. Now Jim Carrey is 63 years old, dividing his life between painting, writing, and selectively accepting roles that still ignite something genuine, including his return in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. His net worth was estimated at $180 million. David Alan Grier as Calhoun Tubbs. David Alan Grier was born on June 30, 1956, in Detroit, Michigan. At 35 years old, he played Calhoun Tubbs, a comedic bluesman who sang one line and called it a song in Living Color in 1990. Appearing in nearly 100 episodes, he became one of the longest-serving anchors of the cast. But behind the humor was a life shaped by wounds far deeper than television ever showed. Growing up in Detroit during years of racial tension and street violence, he learned early how fragile safety could be. That same instability followed him into adulthood as he shifted from the disciplined intensity of Yale drama into the volatile world of sketch comedy. This artistic conflict left him torn between the prestige of serious theater and the loud, chaotic pace of television. Even when Jumanji, 1995, brought him nationwide recognition, and his Tony Award for A Soldier's Play, 2021, reaffirmed his dramatic talent. He often felt caught between two versions of himself. His marriages carried the same emotional turbulence. In 1987, he married dancer Maritza Rivera, but a decade of long filming schedules and emotional distance slowly eroded the relationship until it ended in divorce in 1997. In 2007, he tried again with art curator Christine Y. Kim, and when their daughter Louisa was born in 2008, he hoped a new life was beginning. Instead, the pressure of balancing fatherhood and career pushed the marriage to collapse by 2010. The resulting custody negotiations left him drained and quietly devastated, the kind of pain that lingers unseen yet shapes every decision thereafter. Today, David Alan Grier is 70 years old, still working on stage and television with a quieter, steadier rhythm than before. His net worth was estimated at $4 million. Tommy Davidson as Sammy Davis Jr. Impersonator. Tommy Davidson was born on November 10, 1963, in Washington, D.C. At 27 years old, he played a fast-talking, high-energy Sammy Davis Jr. impersonator in Living Color in 1990. He became one of the show's most versatile and essential performers. But his real life was far more dramatic than any character he ever played, abandoned in a trash heap at 18 months old and rescued by a white woman who later adopted him. Tommy grew up battling a racial identity crisis that followed him into adulthood. That lifelong fracture damaged nearly every early relationship he entered. His romance with Desiree, the mother of two of his children, broke apart under the weight of mistrust, emotional inconsistency, and the pain Tommy carried but couldn't name. By 1993, at the height of his fame, the pressure tipped him into cocaine addiction, forcing him to temporarily leave the show. Even as Booty Call, 1997, and his acclaimed voice role in The Proud Family rebuilt his reputation, the emotional debris of his past remained. The years after rehab brought their own battles. The stress of trying to stay sober, rebuild a career, and maintain multiple co-parenting relationships left him exhausted and often overwhelmed. Tommy admitted he spent years terrified of falling back into chaos, terrified of repeating the abandonment he had lived through as a child. Only when he married Amanda Moore in 2015 and welcomed their daughter in 2021 did he find a stability he had never known. For the first time, he experienced a home not built on fear, but on healing. Today, Tommy Davidson is 62 years old, still doing stand-up, still voicing beloved characters, and still performing with the energy of someone who fought hard to stay alive. His net worth was estimated at $2 million. Kim Wayans as Benita Butrell, Mama. Kim Wayans was born on October 16, 1961, in New York City. At 29 years old, she played Benita Butrell, the neighborhood gossip who talked sweet but tore everyone apart in Living Color in 1990. She became one of the show's most recognizable comic voices. Yet behind the laughter was a life shaped by pressure no one outside the Wayans family ever saw coming. Being one of 10 siblings, and one of the few women in a male-dominated comedy dynasty, forced her into silent battles from a young age. While her brothers Keenen, Damon, Shawn, and Marlon rose to fame quickly, Kim often found herself fighting for equal space, equal opportunities, and equal recognition. After In Living Color ended, Hollywood's doors closed faster on her than on the men in her family. Her shift into writing children's books with the Amy Hodgepodge series came not from desire, but from feeling ignored by an industry that never took her seriously outside of comedy. Her personal life was no less turbulent. Before marrying Kevin Knotts in 2002, Kim endured several painful relationships marked by emotional imbalance and incompatibility. Her partners struggled with her demanding career, her intense family environment, and her quiet burden of always being the sister behind the brothers. The weight of those breakups left scars. Now, Kim Wayans is 64 years old, still writing, still acting occasionally, and quietly mentoring younger black actresses who once felt invisible as she did. Her net worth, about $8 million, reflects years of diversified work in acting, writing, and directing, rather than the fame her brothers enjoyed. Shawn Wayans as DJ SW1. Shawn Wayans was born on January 19, 1971 in New York City. At 19 years old, he joined In Living Color in 1990, playing DJ SW1, the young in-house DJ who later evolved into a comedic performer. Thanks to this role, he became the youngest face of the Wayans comedy empire. But behind the early fame lay the enormous pressure of being a Wayans. Growing up as the ninth of 10 siblings, Shawn lived under the expectations created by his older brothers Keenen, Damon, and later Marlon. When Scary Movie 2000 and White Chicks 2004 became massive hits, the success brought more strain than joy. Hollywood expected him to outdo his brothers, outdo himself, and carry the family brand forward. When later projects underperformed, the disappointment hit harder because it wasn't just his reputation at stake. It was the family name. By the 2000s, the pressure grew so suffocating that Shawn withdrew from the spotlight altogether, choosing peace over fame. His marriage suffered deeply under these demands. Shawn married Ursula Wayans, but the union fell apart in 2005 after years of tension, emotional miscommunication, and the overwhelming stress of raising 3 children while balancing a chaotic work life. The divorce was painful, and custody arrangements became a long-term source of heartbreak. Today, Shawn Wayans is 54 years old, slowly returning to Hollywood with confirmed roles in Scary Movie 6 and White Chicks 2. His net worth, roughly $30 million, reflects the enormous success he once achieved, but also the years he stepped back to protect his mental well-being. Keenen Ivory Wayans as various characters, creator and host. Keenen Ivory Wayans was born on June 8, 1958, in New York City. At 32 years old, he launched and starred in Living Color in 1990, playing multiple characters while serving as the show's creator, writer, and host. Appearing in more than 100 episodes, he became the architect of one of the most influential comedy shows in television history. But the empire he built came at a devastating personal cost. As the eldest brother leading the Wayans entertainment dynasty, Keenen carried the weight of everyone's expectations in the house. That pressure escalated into open conflict in Season 3, when Foxx executives restricted his creative control and pushed for reruns without fair compensation. The clash grew so intense that Keenen walked away from his own creation, feeling betrayed, suppressed, and emotionally drained. Even though Scary Movie 2000 later brought him massive financial success, the scars from that battle never fully healed. His marriage broke down under the same strain. Keenen married Daphne Wayans in 1994, and for 16 years they raised 5 children together. But the constant workload, acting, writing, directing, producing, and guiding his siblings' careers, left little room for emotional presence at home. By the late 2000s, the distance between them had grown into a void. Their divorce in 2010, after years of financial negotiations and ongoing custody discussions, left him exhausted and privately shaken. Keenen admitted the pressure of being the leader of the family brand pushed him into mild depression. Today, Keenen Ivory Wayans is 67 years old, working selectively, mostly behind the camera, nurturing new projects without the weight of carrying an entire industry on his back. His net worth, roughly $65 million, reflects the decades he devoted to writing, producing, and building franchises that changed modern comedy. Jamie Foxx as Wanda. Jamie Foxx was born on December 13, 1967, in Terrell, Texas. At 24 years old, he joined In Living Color in 1991, playing Wanda, the outrageous, unfiltered woman who terrorized every man she met with the line, "I'm gonna rock yo' world." That wild, comedic persona made millions laugh, even as his private world was slowly filling with storms he never saw coming. His personal life was marked by emotional battles that fame could never soften. Though he never married, his long, complicated relationship with Katie Holmes, 2013 to 2019, left deep wounds. They spent years hiding from paparazzi, denying romance in public while struggling with distance, conflicting lifestyles, and Foxx's fear of commitment. When the relationship ended quietly in 2019, Foxx felt the heartbreak of a man who had tried to build a family but could never fully step inside it. His relationships with his daughters, Keenen and Annalise, also became a source of pressure, especially during custody misunderstandings. The weight of unfinished love and unresolved grief often bled into his work, even as he delivered Oscar-level performances in Ray, 2004, and Django Unchained, 2012. Then came the collapse of 2023. In April, Foxx suffered a sudden medical emergency, later revealed to be a brain bleed leading to a stroke. He nearly died. For weeks, his family shielded the truth as rumors of paralysis, blindness, and impending death spread across the internet. In rehab, he struggled to walk, speak, and even remember basic routines. The incident forced him to pause his career at its peak, leaving several film productions in chaos and pushing his mental resilience to the edge. Today, Jamie Foxx is 58 years old, slowly returning to work, appearing at selective events, and carefully rebuilding his strength while hosting Beat Shazam again. He has spoken publicly about going to hell and back, finally admitting his stroke nearly ended his life. His estimated $170 million net worth was earned from acting, music, and producing. Takaya Crystal Keymah as Chrissy. Takaya Crystal. Keymah was born on October 13, 1962, in Chicago, Illinois. At 28 years old, she joined In Living Color in 1990, playing Chrissy, one of the show's sharp comic pillars and the only woman to appear in all 5 seasons. She became a defining presence on the series. Yet behind the confident characters and comedic timing was a woman beginning to understand how unforgiving Hollywood could be. Her marriage to Mark Holderman, which ended in 1999, deepened her sense of vulnerability. The long work days, constant travel, and tension between her rising career and her partner's expectations cracked their marriage from the inside. After the divorce, she faced the loneliness of single life in an industry where black actresses were routinely sidelined, underpaid, or replaced. The glow of In Living Color faded into years of struggling for roles that were often stereotypical or demeaning. Even when she found success in Cosby, 1996 to 2000, and That's So Raven, 2003 to 2007, she carried the ache of knowing her male colleagues advanced faster, freer, and with fewer barriers. By 2010, her battles turned physical. Keymah was diagnosed with lupus, a chronic, exhausting autoimmune illness that attacked her joints, drained her strength, and disrupted her momentum. The disease forced her to step away from acting at times, even as she cared for the grandmother who had raised her. Now, Takaya Crystal Keymah is 63 years old, working independently on The Cool Crystal Show and finding creative refuge on her own platform. Her estimated $3 million net worth reflects decades of acting, writing, teaching, and surviving. Kelly Coffield Park as Wacky White Lady. Kelly Coffield Park was born on January 19, 1962, in Des Plaines, Illinois. At 28 years old, she joined In Living Color in 1990, playing the Wacky White Lady, a chaotic suburban caricature whose explosive energy made her one of the show's most memorable original cast members. Behind the laughter, however, she was already fighting the quiet anxiety of a career that never felt as stable as the fame around her. Kelly often spoke about the emotional weight of navigating Hollywood alone. In her early years, she endured a string of relationships with industry colleagues that collapsed under the pressure of conflicting schedules, jealousy, and the blunt truth that comedians often hid loneliness behind jokes. Those years left her feeling unwanted in the very industry she helped entertain. Leaving in living color before season 5 deepened those wounds. She feared she had stepped away too soon, and the phone calls for leading roles never came. While she earned meaningful opportunities, including Seinfeld and later Scary Movie 2000, the industry's spotlight increasingly shifted to younger faces, magnifying her self-doubt. Her most painful struggle was the transition from ensemble stardom to unpredictable guest roles, a shift that made her question her place in the craft she loved. Even as she entered a stable and supportive marriage with fellow cast member Steve Park in 1999, the shadow of her earlier heartbreaks lingered. Still, she kept working, carving out a modest career built more on resilience than applause. Today, Kelly Coffield Park is 63 years old, still acting in selective projects while prioritizing family life with her husband and their 2 children. Her estimated $2 million net worth reflects decades of consistent but often under-celebrated work. Steve Park as various characters. Steve Park was born on May 4, 1962, in Vestal, New York. At 28 years old, he joined In Living Color in 1990, where he appeared in dozens of episodes playing a range of supporting characters. His presence on the show came during a transitional wave of Asian American representation, making his performances both memorable and controversial. But behind the humor, Steve's personal life carried shadows that few viewers ever saw. His marriage to fellow cast member Kelly Coffield Park, whom he wed in 1999, eventually became the anchor that steadied him. Yet before meeting her, Steve struggled for years with loneliness and the pressure of navigating Hollywood as an Asian American actor. The turning point came in 2001, when a severe car accident left him injured and emotionally shaken, forcing him to step back from auditions and derailing the career momentum he had built after Fargo, 1996. The physical recovery was long and painful, but the psychological fallout was worse. Hollywood was never kind to him. His role in Fargo had already drawn backlash from parts of the Asian American community, adding guilt to an already fragile sense of belonging. The accident pushed him into deeper self-doubt, limiting his appearances to scattered guest roles such as The Good Wife, and leaving him to rebuild his confidence piece by fragile piece while enduring chronic pain from his injuries. Today, at 63 years old, Steve Park continues to work occasionally in character roles, choosing small but meaningful projects while living a quiet family life with Kelly and their 2 children. His estimated net worth in 2025 is around $1 million. Rosie Perez as Self. Spike's joint customer. Rosie Perez was born on September 6, 1964. At 26 years old, she appeared in Living Color, 1990 to 1994, as the show's fiery, uncompromising choreographer for the Fly Girls, a role that helped define the show's identity and cemented her place as one of the breakout forces behind its edgy style. Her personal life, however, was far less stable. Rosie came from a childhood marked by foster homes, separation from siblings, and a strict Catholic upbringing that left scars she would spend a lifetime unpacking. Those emotional wounds resurfaced during her years on In Living Color, especially when work pressure collided with her long-standing anxiety and PTSD. Her marriage to filmmaker Seth Zvi Rosenfeld in 1998 brought temporary calm, but the relationship unraveled within 3 years, ending in divorce in 2001. A split Rosie later described as necessary but deeply painful. Her career remained fierce and unpredictable. An Oscar nomination for Fearless, 1993. Acclaimed roles in White Men Can't Jump, It Could Happen to You, and Birds of Prey, and later an Emmy-nominated performance in The Flight Attendant. Yet her journey was repeatedly interrupted by physical injuries and emotional battles, including a severe neck injury sustained on Law & Order, Special Victims Unit, which led to surgery, a lawsuit, and months in a brace. In 2013, she finally found lasting stability when she married artist Eric Hayes, and the couple began a quiet life together in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Today, at 61 years old, Rosie Perez continues acting, advocating for Puerto Rican rights, serving on arts and HIV/AIDS councils, and speaking openly about trauma healing. Her estimated net worth in 2025 is approximately $2 million US. Jennifer Lopez as Fly Girl. Jennifer Lopez was born on July 24, 1969 in the Bronx, New York. At 22 years old, she joined In Living Color in 1991, performing as a Fly Girl dancer, the fiercely ambitious Latina who moved with precision, fire, and the hunger to escape poverty. Appearing in more than 60 episodes, she used the show as her launchpad into Hollywood. Her romantic life became one of the most publicly dissected sagas in modern entertainment. From her short, turbulent marriage to Ojani Noah, 1997 to 1998, to the emotional exhaustion of her high-profile relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, to her quiet, painful divorce from dancer Chris Judd, 2001 to 2003, Jennifer found herself trapped in a cycle of heartbreak played out on magazine covers. The most devastating chapter came with Ben Affleck, both in 2003, when excessive media scrutiny destroyed their first engagement, and again in 2024, when their second marriage collapsed under global attention. Even her longest marriage, to Mark Anthony, 2004 to 2014, ended in disputes over parenting, career control, and emotional distance. Each breakup left her questioning whether love and fame could ever coexist, and each wound followed her into her biggest triumphs, including Selena, 1997, and her Golden Globe-nominated role in Hustlers, 2019. These emotional battles took a toll that even her fans didn't fully grasp. She struggled with exhaustion, mental strain, and the heavy pressure of sustaining an empire built on perfection. The constant paparazzi harassment, breakups caught on camera, accusations in tabloids, and relentless commentary on her weight, voice, and relationships caused recurring anxiety and insomnia. Now, Jennifer Lopez is 56 years old, continuing to act, sing, produce, and tour while re-evaluating her relationship with fame after her final divorce from Ben Affleck. Her estimated $400 million net worth stands as proof of her relentless discipline. So, which of these transformations shocked you the most? Comment below and let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more surprising stories from Hollywood's past and present.